Porcelain ball-jointed dolls have always seemed mysterious and difficult to make. And while they can be challenging in some ways, they are not nearly as complicated as they might appear at the first glance. When I began researching dolls, especially collector's dolls, porcelain ball-jointed dolls immediately stood out. I was drawn to their intricate designs and the look of porcelain, so smooth and almost translucent. It felt like it was the perfect combination of modern design and ancient material that has been used for doll making for centuries. So in this video, I want to explain the process of making the modern porcelain ball-jointed doll and how you can make one too. It requires a little bit of special equipment, but if you find an access to a kiln, maybe in a ceramics class or by befriending someone with a kiln, then you can make everything else at home. I will skip the parts of sculpting a prototype or making plaster molds, but you can read more about that on my blog or watch videos here on my YouTube channel. I'll try to link all the relevant resources in the description below. Every doll starts by pouring the liquid porcelain slip into the plaster molds. We use plaster molds because of the absorbent qualities of plaster. Because plaster is porous, it draws the excess moisture out and porcelain hardens inside the mold. I use ultra chic porcelain slip and I love it because of the smoothness I get working with this porcelain and the variety of skin colors I can choose from. I fill all my molds, and after some time, when the porcelain forms thick enough shell around the plaster walls, I pour the excess porcelain out, making the pieces hollow. Ball-jointed dolls are hollow because inside there is the whole mechanism holding the doll together. When the porcelain hardens enough to be handled, I open the molds and retrieve my doll pieces. At this stage, porcelain is still raw and very fragile, so I need to be extra careful not to squish anything when opening the molds. Because plaster molds are very rigid, a lot of details are lost in the casting process. After the bisque firing, when the porcelain is not so soft and fragile, I will be sanding these pieces to bring back all those details and remove any imperfections. I quickly fell in love with these dolls and made it my mission to figure out how to create one myself. Back then, there wasn't much information available. I had to dig through niche forums, translate books from languages I didn't speak, and carefully study the dolls to understand how they were made. There were no lessons or tutorials to follow. Unlike today, people rarely share their methods on social media too. It took me years to finish my first doll, but I was stubborn and deeply passionate about it. Dolls felt like the only path I wanted to pursue in life. But because it was so difficult to find any guidance, I decided that teaching others how to make dolls would become my mission too. For years now, I shared articles, videos, and tutorials online, and I'm so excited to announce that my new course on making porcelain ball-jointed dolls is finally here. I spent over a year putting together this comprehensive course, and I believe it's my best one yet. My video making skills have improved a lot, so this course is packed with video tutorials rather than just written text and pictures. I filmed every step of the doll making process and broke it down into easy-to-follow sections. What once seemed like an overwhelming task is now a step-by-step project that anyone can tackle. In the course, I also share all the materials I use and where to purchase them, so you won't have to go through that trial and error I did when figuring out what works best for porcelain dolls. It took me so long to complete this course because I refilmed many sections multiple times to ensure everything is clearly documented. Now I can confidently say that this is the way I make my dolls, and it's all captured for you to learn from. Join the course today and start your own doll making journey, and hopefully you'll get there faster with my help. To celebrate the launch, the first 30 people to sign up will receive a 30% discount with the code DOLLS. I am so incredibly happy with this course, and I want to thank you for all the support over the years. And now, let's get back to the video. After opening the molds and retrieving all the pieces, I gently remove the seams and bigger imperfections. This way, I will have to sand less after the BIS firing. At this point, I also punch the holes for the metal bars inside the joints and prepare every piece for the BIS firing in the kiln. Removing the seams and working with raw porcelain is one of my favorite parts of this process. It usually takes the whole day, so I prepare a bunch of podcasts and calmly work at my desk. It's almost like a meditation and always clears my head. After removing the seams, I leave all the pieces to dry fully before placing them in the kiln. It's important to fire the pieces when the porcelain is completely dry, otherwise the trapped moisture could evaporate too quickly, causing your pieces to crack. After the BIS firing in the kiln, the long process of sanding and detailing awaits. Because porcelain dust contains silica, which is very harmful for the lungs, I only do wet sanding and try to avoid porcelain dust at all costs. For wet sanding, I use various sanding sponges and metal tools for carving. At this stage, I try to bring back all the details that were lost in the casting process. So it takes a while, but after the final firing, any changes are nearly impossible. So I try my best to make this doll perfect now. I carve all the small details like nails, wrinkles, separate the fingers and toes, and try to make my doll as detailed as possible. I like to do these intricate details so the person who owns the doll could find something new to look at every time. It might seem tedious, and you don't have to be as meticulous as I am, but I really enjoy working on a miniature scale. So when my doll is completely ready for the final firing, I make sure that all the pieces are dry and place them in the kiln for the final high temperature firing. When I open my kiln the next day, all the porcelain pieces now reach the full maturity and the porcelain is strong, vitrified, very soft and smooth. This texture and feel of the porcelain gets me every time. It's the most beautiful material for me. These pieces now are ready for painting. For that, I use china paints that need to be fired in the kiln as well. These paints soak into porcelain on a molecular level, so it becomes part of the porcelain and looks very natural and soft. Painting porcelain is an art form in itself and takes a little bit of trial and error to figure it out. Each layer of china paints has to be fired in the kiln, so the colors have to be built up gradually with each layer. I mix up some paint with an oil medium and start painting. The first layer is usually a general face and body blush to give the doll some color and dimension. Then each layer gets more complicated and I start to paint face features and other details. Painting really brings out the doll's character, so I try to add intricate details like freckles, very detailed eyes and some makeup. At this point, I have in mind how this doll will look like with the costume and hair, and try to match the vibe with painting the features. It helps to have some reference pictures and be patient when painting these small details. To paint the face, I need up to 6 or 8 layers of paint, so I try to gradually build the colors and not to rush the process. When I'm done painting, it's time to assemble this doll into functioning ball-jointed doll. But first, we need to add lining to the joints, so the porcelain would be protected and the doll would hold every pose perfectly. This leather lining helps with the doll's posability and prevents any wear on the porcelain pieces. For this lining, I use up all the leather scraps I can get from people who make leather goods. Since I need such a small amount, nothing goes to waste and I don't have to purchase new leather from the fabric shop. I glue the leather the shiny side up into all the joint sockets. It creates enough traction when the joints are moving and improves the doll's posing abilities. To make sure that the leather is attached very securely, I pull up the edges and use tiny bit of super glue around them. Always test if your pieces fit together perfectly after attaching the lining. If you use thin enough leather, you shouldn't have any problems. Assembling the doll is probably the most difficult part for beginners. It's because porcelain dolls are usually assembled using steel springs and other metal hardware. Steel extension springs provide enough tension so the porcelain doll could hold every pose very securely and never be floppy. But this method requires quite a bit of trial and error. Steel springs are connected to the metal bars inside the joints using S-hooks. So you connect arms and legs separately and then connect everything together through the torso and attach the whole mechanism to the metal bar inside the head. When it's all done, the doll will maintain this tension for years to come. I provide the assembly scheme and more instructions in my new course, so check it out if you need any further help. When the doll is all assembled, I make a wig and a costume and the doll is ready to be played with. I love to take pictures of them and try different poses. These dolls are made from the materials that will last for years and can become true artworks. Hopefully you are curious about making one too. Thank you so much if you watched till the end. I hope this overview was helpful and now you will feel more confident making your own porcelain ball-jointed dolls. If you need more guidance, consider joining my course. Also, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them in the comments. See you there!